Hi everybody, this is the last four cards of the Suit of Cups. We're going on to the Page of Cups. We know the story, and this is one of my favorite stories. The Page of Cups, the Knight of Cups, the Queen of Cups, and the King of Cups. Page of Cups. The card of the Page of Cups portrays a boy of around 12 years old, black-haired and wearing a pale lilac tunic, kneeling at the edge of a deep blue pool. On the ground beside the pool stands a golden cup, into which the youth peers ardently, for he is studying the reflection of his own face, and is struck by its beauty. Around him grow clumps of irises and narcissus, budding not yet in bloom. A woodland scene or screens a gentle blue sky. It's a beautiful picture. The court card of the Suit of Cups are represented by mythic figures who embody the typical characters of the suit. Here is in the card of the Page of Cups we meet a changeable, vulnerable, gentle beginnings of the element of water. The nascent emerges of the capacity to feel. This is embodied in the mythic figure of the beautiful youth, Narcissus, who fell in love with his own reflection in the water. Narcissus was a thespian, the son of the river god Cephas, by a nymph. Anyone might excusably have fallen in love with Narcissus, even as a child, and his path was indeed strewn with ardent suitors of both sexes, who were enamored of the boy's beauty, immured, I think. But his mother, on the advice of the seer Tyreus, had never permitted the boy to see his own reflection. Thus he was quite unaware of his own identity. So, in other words, he was so beautiful that he had never looked in a mirror because of his mother, and this is the first time he sees himself, and something is awakening, like when we humans go from childhood into maturity, like when we get our monthlies as the women, and the men, their voice break. That is the stage of the Page of Cups, all pages really. So it's a beautiful story, so I will read this page, because then I can keep each card shorter. One day, when wandering the Thespian countryside, Narcissus came upon a pool. This pool was fed by a spring, clear as silver, and never yet been disturbed by cattle, birds, or wild beasts, men, or even by branches dropping off the trees that shade it. As the boy cast himself down, exhausted, on a grassy verge to slake his thirst, he fell in love with his own reflection. Now, what I found profound in this story, just on the other page, is that anybody would fall for him. So, again, gayness, loving the same sex, comes forth. So there's no discrimination, like I always say in the cards. Okay, he fell in love with his own reflection. At first he tried to embrace a kiss the beautiful boy who confronted him, but presently recognized himself and lay gazing enraptured into the pool. Hour after hour. At length Narcissus could no longer bear the agony of his unobtainable love. He plunged his dagger into his breast, crying, "Ah, youth, beloved in the vein, farewell." As he expired, his blood soaked the earth, and up sprung the white narcissus flower with its red corollary. Okay. Narcissus, the Page of Cups, seems at first to be merely an image of vain self-love, but he may also be seen as an image of self-discovery, for loving another must spring first from recognition and value of one's self. Otherwise it is sad and often fruitless exercise in seeking in the other what one has not yet discovered within. Such relationships tend to be doomed, and the apparent selfishness of Narcissus is really the beginning of the discovery of one's own worthiness, of being loved. This is often the start of a genuine capacity to love another as a separate person, rather than a potential supplier of qualities one needs to feel complete. So in other words, you must love yourself first before you can love another. You must take care of yourself before you can take care of another. That's what I always say with readings. Thus, Narcissus, the Page of Cups, is an ambiguous figure in one sense. The Page of Cups as an image of gentle nascent beginnings of the feeling life, suggests the birth of something new, a capacity for love or renewal of faith in love, which might previously have been damaged or bruised from an unfortunate relationship. Then the sense of self-love which Narcissus embodies is the beginning of healing. Vain and infantile though it might seem at the time, many people, after a shattering separation or loss of a loved one, spend a long time in a kind of emotional twilight, where they feel they have nothing to give anymore. Often during such a time, one does not care much for one's self either, but the gentle, delicate stirrings of this renewal of capacity to love often take the form of a slow and gradual interest in oneself, one's body, one's environment, trying to please and feed oneself with things that bring pleasure rather than pain, or reminders of pain. This is a process which must occur before the individual is ready to risk another emotional encounter. The Page of Cups, like the other pages in the minor arcana, suggests something fragile and delicate, easily misunderstood and easily crushed. So too is our nascent sense of self-love, which can ultimately lead to a more fulfilling relationship life. We can easily call Narcissus callous and selfish because he has his eyes for because he has eyes for no other than himself, but he must begin with himself before he can see anyone else. And it is interesting to note that in the myth it is his mother who tries to keep him from self-knowledge and self-recognition. The rather sad ending of the story of Narcissus can also be taken on several levels. In some ways, the Page of Cups and all he embodies must eventually transform or die before love of another can fully develop. But it is necessary that this be a self-sacrifice, a genuine moving from self-preoccupation to awareness of others. Thus, in a way, it is fitting and right that Narcissus end his own existence, for the transformation into the Knight of Cups, where the feeling life can now move freely onward towards others. When the Page of Cups appears in a spread, the birth of something new on the feeling level is suggested. This might be a new relationship, a new quality of feeling within a relationship, even the birth of a child. Often the Page of Cups occurs a renewal of the capacity to love, beginning with love of self, after the time of hurt and withdrawal. This delicate quality must be nurtured, or it can rapidly vanish. And I think that is a beautiful definition of the Page of Wands. And now I will go on to the Knight of Cups. And we always think of the knights, a knight in shining armor and on a white horse, but in this case it is the white horse, but in every suit the horse has a different color. Now, going on to the Knight of Cups. The card of the Knight of Cups portrays a pale-skinned, beautiful young man with black hair and soulful eyes, mounted on an elegant white horse. He is dressed in a violet tunic and silver fish scale armor, and wears a silver helmet crowned with a silver fish tail. He leads his horse gracefully across the bubbling stream where fish leap from the water around him. Lies a romantic landscape of woods and green hills, while in the distance the sea can be glimpsed beneath the pale blue sky. In one hand the knight holds a golden cup. Now, this is going to be a long one, so bear with me. I thought it was going to be shorter, but perhaps you like the story. Perhaps you might like to switch off after the page and keep the knight until you sit somewhere else and you just want to listen to the story. And I'll see what the Queen is like. The Queen is quite extensive as well, so I might do the Queen separately from the King altogether. But let's see what holds for the knights. Here in the card of the Knight of Cups we meet the volatile, sensitive, changeable dimension of the element of water, with, like the stream, is full of life and always moving. This is embodied by the myth hero Perseus, who is motivated on his adventures by love of women and must on his journey confront the many faces of the feminine, both dark and light, before he can unite with his love. Perseus was the son of Zeus by a mortal woman called Dana, to whom the god appeared as a shower of gold. Dana's father Acrisius had been warned by the Delphic oracle that his daughter would bear a son who would kill him, so he shut Dana and her infant up in a chest, which he cast into the sea. Protected by the water deities, they were washed ashore, and Seriphos and taken under the protection of the king of Polydectes. The Polydectes fell in love with Dana and persuaded her all through the years of Perseus' childhood and adolescence, eventually Polydectes resolved to kill Perseus because the young man opposed the match, believing his mother deserved something better. So the king therefore sent the young man on an apparently hopeless quest to obtain the head of the terrible Gorgon Medusa. Woo! There's a film about Medusa, and when you look at Medusa you turn to stone, I believe. Sorry, that is the wire. Perseus was favored by goddesses each step of the way. The Graeae, three old crones who shared only one eye between them, and who knew the secrets of the future, told him where to find the she-monster, and Athena provided the young hero with a magic shield. Thus Perseus was able to slay the Gorgon by watching her reflections in the mirror of the shield in order to protect his mother. He took the head of the Gorgon with him, and on his way back to Seriphos he passed through Ethiopia and had to rescue the beautiful maiden Andromeda from the clutches of the sea monster. He killed the monster, freed the girl, and married her. Then he returned to Seriphos, killed Polydatis, who meanwhile had attempted to assault Dana, and set forth with his mother and his bride to be to place with his mother and his bride to the place of his birth, where the grandfather Acrisius had once tried to murder him. Although he did not deliberately seek vengeance against Acrisius, he accidentally killed him, and thus became king of Argos. But the place held sad memories for him, so he travelled to Tyrenes, where he founded a glorious house. Perseus, the Knight of the Cups, is an image of the true romantic spirit, the champion of women in distress, the worshipper of love, beauty and truth, and the defender of high ideals. Ceaselessly searches for that perfect love which ultimately exists only in spirit, yet which always seems to be around. Which always seemed to be around the corner in the next beloved. The romantic spirit of the Knight of Cups embodies all that is gentle, idealistic, and kind, although he is not a weak character, and is capable of sacrificing everything in the name of his ideal, or his beloved. This is, in a sense, a picture of the state of being in love, an experience which every realist may claim, dies rapidly with the familiarity of marriage, children and family obligations, but which every romantic believes can and ought to remain forever. When it doesn't, the Knight of Cups may move on, still seeking the ultimate experience of the holy love. The holiness of the Knight of Cups does not, of course, preclude sex, but sexual relationships for this figure must be blended with love and a kind of ecstasy of the spirit. Mere bodily satisfaction does not interest him. Historically, the ideals of courtly love which flourishes in the Middle Ages reflect the spirit of the Knight of Cups. The young knight always worshipped his beloved um, from afar. He would not sully her with base desires, but wrote poetry to her and often offered his life to protect her. Perseus is different from other heroes precisely because of his high idealism and worship of women, unlike such figures as Hercules, who meets his challenges because he is attempting to expiate a sin, so get rid of a sin, or Theseus, who meets them because they are exciting. Perseus follows his fate because of love, primarily uh, at first love of his mother. This quality of worshipping and idealizing the mother is characteristic to the Knight of Cups, for despite his strength he kneels at the feet of a queen, a woman higher and more powerful than he. The quality of love represented by the Knight of Cups often contains this element of worshipping someone before whom one feels slightly unworthy, or someone who already has a husband. It is not yet love of equals that we must meet later in the Queen and King of Cups, but it is in its fashion love, and should not be mocked as an adolescent or immature. Without the Knight of Cups, we would live in a bleak and colorless world indeed. When the Knight of Cups appears in a spread, it is time for the individual to experience this heady and romantic dimension of love. Often the night occurs a proposal of marriage, or another proposal, or an experience of falling in love, sometimes on another level. He implies an artistic proposition, a relationship of another kind, which is no less exalted and idealistic, or he may enter one's life as a poetic and sensitive young man and herald of one's own emerging romanticism. Wow, that is beautiful. I hope you've liked this. Now we're going on to the Queen and King in a different episode. I'll see you there. Please like and share. Thank you.